Hello, everyone. Today we have a special guest with us today. We're going to have a special session of Chew the Fat with Smoove. And you know how we doing this. We allow our guests to introduce themselves. So we have this lovely young lady here. Let's hear just a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name is Stacie. I have a master's in social work, and I'm currently working on getting my license to become a therapist. I just recently launched a webinar that's also integrated into a membership site that helps people essentially get back to their identity. I think I overcame a lot of trauma in my life. And I think through therapy, I really had to re-find myself. And in that, I had to kind of debunk a lot of truths that I had to myself. So it's essentially just kind of like a starting point for people to understand their needs, their values, and yeah, get back to the core of who they are. So then that way they can build healthier relationships.
Awesome. So one of the first things I want to talk about is what made you decide one day that, you know what, I want to help people. What was
Uh,
your main inspiration?
I think I think I've always been a helper, right? It's just kind of like in my nature to be that, but that also right turned into like people pleasing. So it was essentially having to find a balance between my needs and other people's needs. But um,
Okay.
I had been in social services. I have been for the past 6 years. I started working with the homeless population, helping them getting into supportive or permanent housing, essentially just trying to build up people. I think being that I was raised in a dysfunctional home, it was important for me to give people the opportunity that I feel like I didn't have. I think there's strength in family, right? In the home. I think once the home issues are addressed, then you can start building momentum to learn skills and implement tools and set goals and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, I think for me, it was just kind of, it was innately embedded in me. And I just kind of like figured out where I thrived at, and I just kind of kept going.
Okay. Um, do you feel like it was a struggle trying to find out which way you would approach it? Because you know you wanted to help people, but what made you go this particular direction?
Um, I think people just like have, they don't know where to start. And there's so much information out there, right? You can log into Instagram and find tons of different things about like how to heal trauma. Um, but for me, I didn't feel like none of it was actually rooted in the individual, right? They tell you there's an element of how your childhood impacts your living, but it's like, okay, well, what does that mean for me? Like,
Exactly.
how how do I actually discover who I am outside of trauma? And for me, that was like the most important thing of like, okay, who am I outside of my trauma? Like, what are the truths that I've been telling myself, right? I used to always be like, I'm shy, or I'm more reserved. But the reality is, like, I'm not shy, like, I'm actually more outspoken. But I think because I've never actually had a voice in my home, right? Like, I was raised in a Puerto Rican Black home, and they'd be like, shut up before I give you something to cry about, or whatever the case might be. Like,
Oh
realizing
man.
the impacts of stuff like that, and like muting you, right? So it's like you almost feel like you can't speak up for yourself. So it's like, no, I wasn't shy, I just didn't know when to use my voice and when it was safe enough to do so.
Okay, because it was suppressed for so long.
Right, exactly.
At what point do you feel like you're able to kick that, where you can just say, you know what, maybe I should speak? How did you get into that, just from being muted and all of a sudden to be very vocal about it?
um you know what, I think for me, and I'm still this way, this is something that like I undoubtedly still struggle with, right? Like, what's
Okay.
the difference between like letting it go, right? Like picking your battles and being like, no, this is something that still impacts me, right? So I have the sleep method. I will
Okay.
I will sleep on it for the night. And if it's still impacting me in the morning, then I will begin to process it. So then that way I can approach the situation in a very like healthy and calm way. But that's kind of how I've learned how like when to speak up and when not to speak up. But I'm also really big about like justice, right? So if I feel like something just isn't right or it's hitting one of my core values,
Okay.
then I will tend to like speak up immediately. But if it's not that, I tend to like sleep on it just to kind of like discern whether this is worth approaching or addressing or not.
Got it. Okay. So let's find out a little bit about where you grew up. We don't know how old you are yet either. I know it's rude to ask, but hey, we want to know.
No, it's okay. I am 29 years old.
Okay.
I was born in California, and
What
that's
part?
I was born in Palmdale, but I was like raised in
Okay.
Lancaster. So most of my life I lived in Lancaster. Yeah, and from there, after I graduated high school, I moved to San Diego for college.
Okay.
Then I ended up moving to LA, which was
Okay.
an experience in itself. And then, yeah, I think when I was just kind of overwhelmed with LA and done with it, I ended up moving to Virginia, then back to LA, and yeah, then Nevada,
Virginia,
now I'm in
like the DMV
Minnesota.
area? That's all.
Yeah,
Wow. That's like,
yeah. I lived in Arlington, so just
okay.
you live out east, so yeah, just like 15 minutes outside of DC. I spent a lot of good time in New York though when I was there. Like I have a ton of friends in New York, so
Oh
I
yeah.
used to
New York
say
skill
that.
set. There's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, I used to say that my apartment was my storage. I was probably there like once a week out of the month.
Was that New York or Virginia?
Virginia, yeah,
Did you
yeah.
live in New York? Oh, I was gonna say because New York, your apartment probably like the size of a bathroom over there. So you was
I
from New
almost moved
York.
to New York actually. I was gonna go to school there, and like I said, I have a ton of friends there. But yeah, the home sizes, the apartment sizes are definitely not what I was like used to at all. And, you know, paying $3,000 plus for me, like I'm all about location. Like I won't just live anywhere. I have no problem paying more to feel
Yeah,
safe.
yeah, yeah. I got you. Yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely.
yeah, so for me it was just like, and I don't know if I'm willing to downsize that much. So yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
So now you've had some experiences, right, that got you to where you are today.
Mhm.
So what would you like to tell us about your childhood? You said you had you grew up in a Black and Puerto Rican household. Was your mom Black or your dad was Black?
My mom is mixed with a ton of different stuff.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then my dad is Black Puerto Rican. Um,
Okay.
yeah, with my childhood, my mom died like 2 weeks before my second
Oh,
birthday from breast cancer. Um, and for whatever
wow.
reason, yeah, me and my sister.
So do you remember very much of her even? I mean, or
I don't. Actually, the
okay.
first memory that I can actually recall, like being a child, was like me at 4 years old. So,
Got it. Yeah, because it usually starts between at like 3, 4. So
right, right.
man. So you were was it a single parent household for yourself or
Well, I lived with my aunt. I'm not accept. I mean, I did ask my sisters. I was like, "Well, why did we move with like Auntie Wandy?" And they were
okay.
like, and my sisters was like, "I don't know. I think it's because like Dad was like, well, whatever. I'll call him Stanley because that's what I call him." She was like, "I think it's
Okay.
because like Stanley was on drugs." Um,
Oh no.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, we lived with my aunt and her family. So her husband, she had 3 kids, and then it was me and my 3 sisters. So
Oh
definitely
man. So you
full, a full house.
all yeah.
And it, it wasn't the greatest experience, right? Like we were definitely abused by my aunt, and like she wouldn't spank her kids. So we thought it was like really odd, but yeah, I remember my sister getting like a spanking in the bathtub, and she like screaming out like, I want to move with my dad. And this is probably one of like the biggest moments for me where I actually like started to like remember stuff. My aunt dropped
So
us
those
off.
are some of your
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
that's some of your first memories. Wow.
Yeah, and so my aunt dropped us off in the middle of like in the middle of the night at the like courthouse, and was like, they're there.
Okay.
And then
Oh wow.
my dad showed up. So
And
now,
how old were you when this happened?
I believe I was like 7, 6 or 7.
Okay, so you were there for a few years.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, then I moved with my dad, like he made all of these like promises, of like not spanking me and my sisters. And I think that like instantly changed. And so then, drug abuse, like I always say one thing I do respect about my dad, like even though he struggled with substances, is that he never did it in the house. Like
Okay.
he would
So
be
you never witnessed it.
right. Yeah. He would be gone for like weeks at a time and then come back. But
So you would be home alone, just all kids?
well, he had a wife. So when we moved in,
Okay, okay.
like he had a wife, and then I had
So
like,
that was like technically like your stepmom, whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I think in terms of that, it was, I was just subjected to like more abuse, like going to his house. And yeah, me and him definitely had a very dysfunctional relationship, because I'm very outspoken, and I felt like I'm the youngest. So I felt like I was untouchable. Like you could not tell me anything. Like, and yeah, so we used to have it out. And another thing
Okay.
was just like he didn't model anything for me. So I was just like, why would I listen to you when you can't even get your life together? So yeah, it was like in and out of his house.
Damn.
Once my sister started moving out, like I would go stay at my sister's house. I eventually moved in with one of my sisters, um, after me and him got in a really big like physical altercation. And yeah, and then I
Damn. With your dad?
yeah,
You had to shoot the fair one with your dad?
I had to let him know that I think I was just old enough where I was like, I've had enough, right? Like I was
Okay.
not willing to like get to that place anymore or whatever, where I used to witness my sisters like get literally like physically hit by him. Like he would punch them like they were dudes.
Punch.
Um
Yeah,
and
I
I
can't stand it. Yeah, that
yeah.
yeah, I hate to hear about that. I mean, it's very important to go over it, but yeah, when I hear that, I cringe because I can't understand for the life of me why, a grown man would ever beat a woman. That's
Yeah.
outrageous to me. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so
So
this is a lot of abuse. This is just.
we're
And
just
how old were you at that point?
just a little bit.
I got you.
But yeah, no. So I mean, I think I had just had enough, and I was just like, I'm not going to be okay with this. So yeah, I ended up moving with my sister.
How
And
old were you at that point?
well, I first moved with my sister, I believe, when I was like maybe like 14 years old. It was
Okay.
like going into my sophomore year, but I rode her car, and she was not happy about it because I crashed into her garage. So she
Oh
kicked me,
shit.
she kicked me out. But then but then whatever, like I ended up moving back in with her, like I think later my 10th grade year, or later in my 10th grade year. So yeah, it was just kind of, eventually finally, right? Like I always tell people, I was like, I don't understand why I didn't end up in foster care sooner. Because I didn't
Oh,
have.
so that's what happened after that?
Well, not after I drove right my sister's car. I moved with my sister and essentially was like sexually assaulted by her husband's brother. And my sister sided with
Whoa.
yeah, my sister sided with them.
And you were still a minor?
I was a minor. Yeah. Yeah, I was 15 years old. So yeah.
And how old was he?
Probably definitely well in his 20s. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And it
And
sucks.
he never paid. He never paid for that.
No. Yeah. The thing is, like, I mean, I end up moving to my best friend's house, and her mom was like, Stacie, like, I have to call CPS. Like, you can't be here. Like, your sister is like your legal guardian, and I can go to jail for that, like for harboring a minor. So we went to like, CPS and like filed the report and stuff like that. And yeah, my sister essentially sided with them, and they were like, essentially, it's like, your word against his, right? And because there wasn't any like actual like penetration, because like I woke up right before that, there wouldn't have been sufficient evidence. Yeah. So yeah, I end up in foster care, and it should have happened sooner. Like I used to run away for forever, and I would always hope that that would be my reality, but they would just bring me back to good old Stanley.
Damn. So if you said you used to run away sometimes,
Yeah.
where would you go?
I started running away at 7. I mean, no, in 7th grade. And I would go
So
to.
you're about what, 12?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
I would
Okay.
start going to friends' house, and then, I think the last friend, I remember running away to her house, and her mom was like devastated. She was like, Stacie, like, I don't want to send you back. Like, I know you, and but there's nothing I can do, right? Because my dad was threatening to call the cops and stuff like that on her.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's a lot so far, a very lot. So
Yeah.
I heard you name some of these cities. What kind of neighborhoods were they? Were they more so urban? Was it like straight up gutter? Was it the suburbs? What kind of neighborhoods were these?
Like, did I live in?
Yeah, when you were growing up.
Actually, like in really good neighborhoods.
Okay.
Yeah, like I actually lived in like suburban neighborhoods. The thing is, like, yes, I probably talk bad about my dad every once in a while, right? Like, because yes, he did not have his shit together. Like, he definitely had his own trauma that he needed to process, but he did always make sure that we were provided for. Like, he was like essentially like a house dad for a juvenile boys home, and that was his thing, like helping young boys. So it's like, if he wasn't necessarily doing drugs, like he was there, like helping these young men and taking them on activities and stuff like that.
Isn't that ironic though? Isn't that ironic? Like your day job is that, and then when you go home, it's abuse. That's like, what the hell?
Oh, but the better thing, oh my God, I don't even know why I thought about this. Like, my dad was a pastor too.
No. No.
Okay, and I should probably, like, for people who already hate like Christians, like, let me, like, here's how I had to process it, right? Because this is the reason why.
Oh man.
This is part of the reason why, like, I did turn away from God, is because I was like, how does someone who has so much God in them do this to their families? And I have to, like, I really had to realize in the process of me, like, forgiving him, where I was like, it genuinely is a spiritual battle, right? Like, it's just unfortunate that, like, he was so ingrained in his trauma and hadn't actually physically processed that it just continued to win, right? Like, the devil kept winning. And I had no right to be angry at him, right? Because I also had my own experience where I had to, like, get my shit together. So, for me, it was like, yes, that's part of the reason why I turned away from Christianity, right? Like I was raised in the church, but then once I returned to like Christianity, like I saw the bigger picture, and that really allowed me
Okay.
to, like, extend forgiveness, right? And like really release the resentment that I had for him. Like I used to hate him. Like I literally
Okay.
told him one time, I was like, I wish you were dead instead of my mom. And
Oh, damn.
I meant that. And even when we got in our last physical altercation, like I pulled a knife out on him. Like for me, like he was genuinely dead. And I really had to like let that go. So then that way I can truly process like all the hurt that had been like piled in me.
Okay. How's the relationship now with your dad? Is it better?
You know, I still don't talk to him, right? Like I don't believe that forgiveness means reconciliation. I
Okay.
think I could forgive you and still have you at a distance. Like if I'm not mistaken, I believe he is still doing drugs. And for me, like I have two children, right? Like, and their dad's father is very involved, right? Like, you know, they see him all the time. Um, and for me, I didn't want the in and outs that I experienced as a child to also impact my children, to be like, oh, where's Uncle, you know, where's Grandpa Stanley, right? Like I wanted stability for them. Like that was my ultimate goal. Like with having kids, I was like, I want stability. Like I want them to know that they're stable, you know, that people in their life, the relationships that they're developing are stable. So I don't talk to him. Like I have, you know, reached out a few different times. But yeah, there's no relationship, and I don't feel anything about it.
Okay. I mean, that's understandable because there's a lot of hurt there. If you said you forgave, that's fine. But again, if they're not, if for me personally, anybody who's not going in the same direction that I am, like I can't involve you in my life anyway. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because
Mhm.
they're gonna take away from you. They
Yeah.
have to be they have
Mhm.
to be going the right direction. That's just it's as simple as that. So I could very much understand why you would say, "Hey, listen, we're not ready for all that." And maybe he never will be. Maybe you won't be collectively. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
you know, as long as you're not holding any animosity towards it, then that is what it is.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, um, what's your love life like?
um, well, I have a boyfriend. It's a long distance relationship, so that definitely comes with a lot
How
of,
long?
well, he lives in California. So,
Oh wow.
yeah.
How many
So
miles is that?
I don't know, like
A
maybe
lot.
almost 2,000, maybe. Like,
Okay.
I know, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think it has it has been good, right? Like I think the time that like we met each other, we were both like essentially going through this like spiritual awakening, right? Um,
Okay.
and yeah, we just like meshed like really well. There's definitely like a huge friendship there. Like he's genuinely like one of my best friends, and I know a lot of people say that, but it's like I can have conversations with him about anything and absolutely anything, like with no judgment. And he's also responsive to that. And yeah, so I mean, we'll see what happens as far as, you know, figuring out the logistics about like, you know, closing the gap.
Yeah,
But
somebody got to move.
yes,
Somebody got to move.
we
That's the
definitely
only.
realize that. We definitely realize that. But like, you know, I think it works, right? Like I think you're never fully healed, but I think we're still like, you know, individually like doing things on our healing journey. And
Okay, so he had some problems too. He's dealt with some things too.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I definitely think he has, but Probably not to definitely not to the extent that I have.
Okay.
But I always say, right, like I always say that, no, I'm not going to say that because I think that's a little too personal, but yeah, I think it works for us, right? We have some sort of routine, right? Like we talk every evening on the phone, or sometimes multiple times in a day, just depending on what our schedules look like. We try to make a habit of seeing each other every month, whether it's like I go to LA or he comes here. Right now it's freezing in Minnesota, so I'm definitely trying to get away more often.
Yeah.
But yeah, it works. It works for now, right? Like, and I think it really, we also aren't having sex out of marriage. So there is an element. Huh? Yeah. So there's really an element of us like genuinely building a strong foundation that's rooted in so many other things.
Do you feel like, wait, we got to stop there for a second. You just said something heavy. That's heavy talk right there. Wait a minute. Wait, celibate? Both of you are celibate?
Yes.
Right now?
Yes.
And how long have you been together?
We've been together since October of 2020, so a little over a year.
Wait.
I mean, it didn't start that way. Like yeah.
Okay, so you have, but you're just not now?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Wait, that doesn't make it better. Like
I mean, he he brought it up to me and I was just like, okay, why? Right? Like for me,
that was his idea?
Yeah.
This is not getting better. It's getting worse and worse. Keep going though.
I don't have an issue with it, right? Like for me, I'm like, okay, that's great, but like tell me why, right? Like I'm a very much like I need to know why. So then that way
I understand. No, I understand what you mean. That too.
Yeah. And so yeah, he brought it up to me one day and I was like, okay. And so whatever, we're human, we've experienced it. There's definitely been like, slips here and there, but like, going from like having sex like 5 times in a day, like when we see each other versus, to like not having sex like at all, like it's, it genuinely has been like a huge change and shift in our
this sounds very challenging. Very challenging.
Yeah, it's fun. But
it's fun.
I think the distance helps.
Okay. Do you feel like it enhances your relationship as it is right now? Do you feel like it's better because that's not a focus or a primary focus?
I've always felt like our relationship was good. Sorry.
No, it's okay. We know you got the little ones.
Yeah. Close the door when you leave. I think I don't know how to explain it. Like, I think it's more, I mean, the thing about like, it's not that sex like before marriage it's wrong. I think what happens is that like people will stay in relationships longer because of the sex, or make that their sole reason of like actually connecting. And so while that wasn't necessarily true for us, because we've always been able to like have communication and do things together, it allows us to more focus like on the foundation that we're like actually establishing. So yeah, it's just remaining conscious and being able to like stay present during the time that we actually get to spend together.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, I understand. Definitely not something I could ever get down with, but I
mean, the reason why it's probably more rough for me is because like I'm very art expressive, and sexuality tends to be like an art for me. So
Nothing
I
wrong
think
with that.
in
Yeah,
the
so
I
you
think
can't
that's
express yourself
right.
as much as you'd like to. Gotcha.
Exactly.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, yeah, you better put a ring on it so you can get back to it, because that's
We out here no, just kidding.
I hear you. So I saw one of your little ones just creeped in.
Yes.
How old are your children? You don't have to give us too much details, but whatever you'd like.
Yeah. I have a 4 and 7-year-old. The 7-year-old is
Okay.
a boy. The 4-year-old is a girl.
Oh, you had the boy first. That's awesome.
Yes. Yes. I
Just to
know.
watch over his younger sister.
Perfect, thing. But yeah, so yeah, their names are Rowan and Juliet, and they're just
Huh? Did you say Romeo and Juliet?
Rowan.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh, Romeo. I'm like, no, Rowan, but it's fine.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they're complete polar opposites.
Really?
Yeah, my daughter is absolutely hilarious. Like, she's 4 and she's just funny as fuck. Like, and I don't understand why. But yeah, just super sassy, so confident. So yeah, and it's just my son's a little more reserved. He has to like warm up to you before he starts, feeling like he can be silly around you. But he's very matter of fact. That's what I tell people. Like
Gotcha. Okay.
He's very like, nope, these are the rules. Like, so yeah, it's fun to see, like he hates me and Juliet most of the time because we're both very silly, and yeah, but yeah, they're fun. They're a lot of fun.
Okay. So this is not with your current relationship, obviously.
Right.
So can we hear a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, me and their dad started dating in 2012. And
okay.
I
10 years ago?
Yeah, actually now. Well, we started talking in 2012, my mistake. And then we started dating in 2013.
Okay.
And I got pregnant with Rowan pretty fast in our relationship. And yeah.
That took a couple years. That's not that fast. I've seen some fast ones, but that wasn't that fast.
3 months. Yeah, we were dating for 3 months and I got pregnant. So we lived in LA at the time. We ended up actually moving to Nevada just to be closer to my family. At that point in time, he was trying to like convince me to move to Minnesota. Like, that's where obviously I live right now, and this is where his family is. And I was like, no, like, I don't like, only your family is there. Like, I don't have any siblings there. So we end up like moving to Nevada.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think after I had Rowan, I was kind of like, I was a stay-at-home mom, but like I worked an office job, like online.
Okay.
And then eventually I just stopped because like he started moving too much and it was hard. Yeah. And I remember, the first time, like, he threw, like, after basically saying you should stay home, with Rowan or whatever, like, what you do is fine. Like, after that, he threw finances in my face. And
oh no.
And that was the first time I remember Googling financial abuse. And
oh, that's a thing, huh?
Yeah, it's a thing. Like, it was the first time I have been taking care of myself since I was 11 years old. So for me, I'm like, bro, like, I really don't need you, right? Like, that was like my mentality of like, I'm trusting you, like, as my partner to show up for me because you told me that I should quit my job so I can be home with the kids. You can't also, on the opposite hand, like, throw finances in my face and tell me I don't pay for anything when these were your wants. So I fought to go back to work or whatever. And I worked overnights, like, consistently, right? Like since having kids, like I've always maintained like a part-time job, but I only worked overnight. So then that way I can be home with the kids in the morning.
Okay.
Like that. For me, that was important to spend time with my children.
What kind of work was it?
At that time, I was working at Hooters.
Okay.
In Las Vegas.
Wait,
I was
24 hours?
Well, I was, you know, like I was also working for a matchmaker, like Patty Novak, like I was her office assistant. But yeah, like she's out of Vegas and I believe Buffalo, New York. I don't know if she's still open, but I also worked for her just a little bit. But yeah, eventually I think we were in the process of buying a house, and it was short sold, you know, and the seller like filed bankruptcy and his
Okay.
so essentially he can camp out for the next 2 years without having to pay anything. So they canceled the sale, obviously. So yeah, his family's older, like my ex-husband, he's 13 years older than me. So his family's a lot older and they aren't in the best health. And like his grandmother had just passed. So
okay.
His grandma was basically saying that like we could have her house, like and yeah, so we moved to Minnesota and it just completely changed, you know. His mom was like, no, I don't have it in writing. So we were staying with her for a while. And what I mean by a while was like a month of fucking hell. Like I was like, so, to the point where I was like, yo, this will always be your mom. Like, I'm okay with co-parenting. Like, and it was like the relationship that he had with her so attached that it was like, she can say whatever she wanted to me, or she can completely undermine me as a parent. And he would be like, you need to submit to my mom. And I was like, yeah, yeah. And so I was just like, you know,
I could think the submit to your man part, but submit to the mom.
Yeah. And I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, yeah, I don't know. So, whatever, like I pushed, like, you know, when we moved there or whatever, he was supposed to have a job like lined up. That didn't work out. So I was working like, you know, on the weekends as a bottle server and also working like at a trauma shelter. And so I was like, let's just move, right? So like we end up moving into our own apartment. And then the physical abuse started happening.
Oh man, do you remember the first instance?
Yeah, I remember it was Thanksgiving and he was like definitely drinking way too much, right? Like, and me, like even his like stepmom was like, John, do you want to take a break? Like, do you want to slow down a bit?
Oh, okay.
Like,
he was going hard. Okay.
Yeah. And so I don't remember what the argument was, but like he like grabbed my phone out of my hand and threw it across the room. And I was like, are you joking? Like, and he just like attacked me, right? So like choking me. So like, I'm like trying to like squirm from out of him, right? And I was like, I'm leaving. So like, I grabbed Rowan, I started packing a bag, and because we only had Rowan at this time. I started packing a bag, and he took my keys. He took my keys and like ran inside of the room so I couldn't leave. And so I'm like banging on the door, like, let me go, like give me my keys back. And I threw a kettlebell at the door to hopefully break it open. And he was like, okay, fine, I'll go. And he left, but he took my keys too with him. And so, this was the first time that I was like barricaded in a room, like literally scared for my life, because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen if he comes back and I have nowhere to go. Okay, I'll figure it out. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. Yeah. And so whatever, like we talked about it the next day. He came back and he was like, okay, like I was like, you get scary when you're drunk. And so he stopped like drinking for a little bit, but then he started hiding it. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
damn. So he's just doing it on the low.
yeah. So he like definitely slowed down on drinking. And then, yeah, we end up getting married, I think, that next year. And it just like immediately like shifted from like bad to like hell. And I don't believe in divorce. Like, I think it's definitely an easy way out. Like, I came from a broken family, broken home. For me, like the only thing that I've ever wanted was like stability for my kids. So
Yeah, and I make a lot of emphasis on that when if you watch the podcast at any point, you always see I do talk about the importance of a dual parent household.
yeah,
So I see why you were fighting for that,
yeah.
but this was another level. So
Yeah,
carry on.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, we end up like, getting married. We bought a house. And yeah, I think I was like, even after we got married, it was almost like this, he like just switched. As if like me moving to Minnesota isolated wasn't enough. There was like also the element of like, that like I wouldn't technically leave you, right? Like in your mind, like I wouldn't technically leave you. But yeah, so I got pregnant with Juliet like shortly after like our wedding. Like I wanted another baby. I don't know why, but yeah. So yeah, I remember there was just so many different elements of, abuse throughout it, like physical abuse, financial abuse, like completely like forcing me to like stay home, but then like harboring, like I used to have to ask him for like money to like
Oh
get
man.
for the kids. I didn't have access to like any of the like bank accounts or anything like that. Like it was completely, a secret. Like it was separate from me. Like I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna go do this activity with the kids, or hey, I need gas in my car. And he'd be like, okay, I'll fill up your tank tomorrow. I'll take your car to work. It was like I was
Oh damn, he wouldn't even give you the money for it. He would
yeah, like
just you would not touch the money.
or with the activities, he'd be like, okay, well, how much is the activity? Or like, how much money do you need for groceries? And I'm like, what? Yeah. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
it was,
Not to laugh it up, but this is like extreme. He's like really,
yeah,
really micromanaging the situation.
I literally felt like a child. Um, yeah. So there was just that. And I think it just got bad. I remember my birthday one year, he like tackled me to the ground.
On
And
your birthday?
yeah. Tackled me to the ground and was like punching me in the side. And now this is the second time that I was barricaded in a room, but now with two kids. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So it took a lot. Like it took a lot to leave because I was like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like, what am I going to do? I was working part-time, like at this point in time. And so essentially, since I worked at a mental health hospital, and since they were super short on staff, I was basically doubling all the time. So I would take 2 days out of the week. No, yeah, 2 different days out of the week. And I'd basically work from like 3 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next day.
Damn.
And I did that for a while until I was able to like leave and then get my own apartment. And I continued to do that. He had them a few days, and then I found like a full-time job. And I think there was, like I went from this place of like not knowing what I was going to do, like in terms of like finances. And God has like continued to like increase me in so many different areas of my life, right? Like not even financially, but like just spiritually, mentally, emotionally, like just in terms of like really getting a better understanding of like my role in relationships and how I can like truly edify myself, so then that way I can actually be in relationship with others. And it's been so beautiful. Like I always say that like my entire life is like God's love story, like written for me, because I've had so many different opportunities to like fold or succumb to like the pressures of the world, like be strung out on drugs, right? Like be homeless.
Yeah.
So
Have you ever tried drugs or anything like that, experimented or
yeah,
went through any phases?
I did. I did. So I think in high school I started doing like ecstasy.
Okay.
And so we used to go like in Lancaster. There's nothing to do there. I always say there's nothing to do there. There's like everybody does drugs. And so we used to go to these underground raves, and
Oh
I
yeah, the raves. Yeah.
and so yeah,
Supposedly at the
so
raves.
I've definitely done a lot of like ecstasy and Molly, and then you know, we talked about this, like me getting into the porn industry. And I got really big into cocaine. That was like,
Oh,
yeah. So
is that part of that industry really, like, or like?
I think so. Like, I think it is a huge thing. Like for me, like the Molly and ecstasy just didn't do it anymore. Like I remember one New Year's Eve, like taking, like, I don't know if you know what a triple stack is.
Oh yeah, I know about the triple
Yeah.
stacks. They were doing that back in like '03, like
Yeah.
way back. Triple stacks are old. They've been doing that back in the
Right.
day. I
So
remember the triple stacks.
I took three
You took three triple stacks?
I took three triple stacks, and like
What was you trying to do?
I was like, it was New Year's Eve. I don't know what I was trying to do. I was trying to have fun. But unfortunately, the way my body worked at this time, I was like, I rolled for a good hour, and then I was like, I'm tired. So
Nothing happened. You did you go ahead, keep
before
going.
midnight, I was like, I went home to go to sleep.
Oh, okay. And you woke up, obviously, so you made it out okay.
I made it alive. But yeah, so yeah, Coke was, hold on, I'm gonna close my door.
You got it.
Yeah, so Coke was like my choice, and I would like go through 8 balls like nobody's business, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I remember and this is when I started getting like really jaded of porn, right? Like I've always told myself I would never do anything for money. And I got to the point where I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to go to work, but I'm gonna get a fat ass check at the end of the day, right? Like, and
Okay.
so I was jaded. I was basically staying high to power through my sets or whatever. And I just remember like waking up every morning consistently for like 6 months trying to figure out how I was going to kill myself.
Oh damn! Do you feel like the porn is what did that to you, or the drugs?
You know what? Like I think both. Like I think
Okay.
for me there was an element of like, you know, I like I told you, I was in foster care, so I had this family that was essentially kind of my adoptive family. They stopped talking to me. So that,
oh man.
And then there was the element of like my sister, like one day my sister was like, Stacie, like, when are you going to stop? Like, you're too smart for this.
Okay.
And so I started feeling the implications of all of that, of like, yes, right? Like I'm idolized by all of these people. They love me, right? Like, but I was so insecure, right? Like,
I got it.
it was just like monetary, like attention that like
Got it.
that like hyped me up for the moment, but it's like I had to deal with myself at night, right? Like, and that's the reason why I got high, is because like I didn't want to deal with myself. Like I wanted to continue to escape. And I think once I stopped doing the drugs, because I was like who are you becoming? it got darker and darker for me. And
Wow.
I always tell like my boyfriend, I had this moment where I mean, like it looks like I have dark eyes, right? But like my eyes are actually like a little bit more honey than they are brown. I remember looking in the mirror and like my eyes were black and I did not recognize myself. And I was just like, I need to get out of here. So I basically sold all my stuff in my apartment. At this time I did have a roommate and we were already like getting into it too. So it was like perfect out to like not beat her ass. Yeah, I packed up my car. Like I had this huge black duffel bag. I like packed up my car and I moved to Virginia because I only had one friend there. And I was like,
out of there.
I was like, I need to like get away from places where, you know, someone was like, come to Miami. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to be a hotter mess out there. So I moved to Virginia and it was.
Yeah, Miami would have finished you.
Miami would have finished me.
A little more quiet than that.
Yeah.
So, so let me ask you now with that, those videos are out there forever. No?
The right? What?
The videos. Did you like have a deal like with a distro company or like an entertainment company?
I was with like an agent. So like they always say like I don't know how it is now. Yes, Julia. I don't.
Then I need cake because I'm making a present for Daddy.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'll find it in a little bit.
Oh, can you find it can you take everywhere to look?
Okay, later.
Thank you.
Can you close the door when you leave?
Later will take forever.
It'll be in just a second. Close.
When? Nighttime?
After I'm done. Okay. Can you close the door?
After you're done talking
yeah.
with him?
Yeah.
Like the Mr. Right?
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
What did you ask?
A little one, but...
What was I talking about?
Oh, I said, did you have were you with like an agency or
like
yes. That, or?
Yeah. So back then, I don't know how it is right now. It was like a huge deal to be a Spiegler girl. Like Spiegler was like
a what girl?
A Spiegler girl.
Oh, okay. That was the name of the agency.
That was the name of this man, like this old Jewish. I'm pretty sure he was Jewish, like this Jewish man. And yeah, so I was signed to Spiegler, like, and
okay.
Yeah, I think it was just like he basically had like deals with, you know, a bunch of different like companies and stuff like that. So he had a site or whatever, and he'll have pictures of like all of his girls. It literally is like a pimping agency. Like I don't understand what people like. I always say that like porn is genuinely like legal human trafficking.
In a way.
And
in a way, yeah.
And I'll tell you the reason why I say human trafficking rather than prostitution. But yeah, so there's a page, it basically lists all of the things that you do. So because Spiegler girls had such a
your do's and don'ts, right?
Right, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because I know there's a list that they have do's and don'ts. She'll do this, she'll do that. We could get specific if you want, but some people go, well, yeah, let's get specific. This like they'll say, okay, this one will do girl. This one will do anal. This one will do S&M. Like that's pretty much what it is, right?
Yeah.
And stuff. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. So
I don't want to make you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So essentially, that's how that worked or whatever. People would just go on and they'd be like, okay. And so then he would book our shoots and then he would tell us like our shoots or whatever, our times, you know, who we're working with. Thankfully, like he would tell us that. But he was actually like, he was good in the sense of like, I had to blacklist a bunch of like different producers. And
why?
I'm like, yes, right? Like my ass, whatever might be out there, like you might be able to see everything, but like don't touch me, right? Like I still have boundaries. Like I'm still entitled to like my body. And yeah, I had a lot of experiences like on set where producers just thought that they could do whatever they want. And I felt
Oh, so somebody who has nothing to do with the scene.
right. I mean, they're
Yeah.
shooting the scene, but like, yes, correct. Like they're not actually.
Yeah, there's no need for them to touch you.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
But they would just be okay.
Yeah. Or I mean,
Okay.
you know, I had to blacklist this, you know, another producer or whatever, because he's just like, it was just so difficult to work with him. Like he would always try to do more than what I'm, you know.
Oh, so he's one of those extra. I wish. What's his name? Because he probably.
You know what? I don't remember his name now, but he's a.
Okay. Do you remember anybody? Have you worked with anybody who was who had a little bit of notoriety or
like in terms of
like popular,
like talent, like male talent?
mainstream? Yeah. Mainstream.
I was mainstream, but I worked with like Rico Strong.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Eric Everhard.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think. Like Derek Pierce was the big one. I was like, the thing is, like, a lot of my fans would get mad because I'd be with a bunch of like white guys, and they'd be like, "She only likes white dick" or whatever. So, unfortunately, like, but the reality is that a lot of producers like producing like contrast scenes because of the contrast. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, interracial was actually the biggest category. Probably still is. But I know up to at least a couple of years ago, it was the biggest category. So it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So that's that. I just.
Hey, I'm gonna try this. What you go by?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Okay.
You know,
we're gonna have to.
Reason why I'm not, and like I'm like I've been rebranding, right? And part of the reason why, like,
you want that part, you need that to go away.
And it's it's not that I want it to go away. The thing is, like, majority of my followers know that that was my reality. That's how they started following me or found me. I don't even know. Like, I've never used the stage on this profile, but weirdos, they just find you.
Yes, they do. They do. And they will Google search you. Like Facebook had that whole thing where you could pretty much take an image of someone and then put it in Facebook, and then you can find them and their dads. People were doing that. They were going going to TikTok and stuff like that, finding videos that like their daughter might look promiscuous or just doing something wild, and then they would get the image, find them on Facebook, and then send it to their parents, all that stuff, just their family, everything. So, you know, technology is a motherfucker, man. Like,
right.
Get you. But, you know.
Yeah, so there's just been rebranding, and so for me, it's like I'm like vocal about this, right? Because I don't, like I told you, right? I don't want people to think that like I'm ashamed of this, because I'm not. Like,
sure.
But there's the element of like,
it's part of your journey.
It's part of my journey, right? Like, and I have gotten so, like, I've done so much to get to the place to be where I'm at right now. That for me, it's something that I'm like, me and my boyfriend say this thing, like, yo, let me grow, right? Like, if we talk about something and it's a joke, but it's like true, right? You have to allow people to grow out of the place that they had previously been at. And the hard part about most people is that they want to keep you bound to that place for their own sexuality.
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't done porn for 10 years. Like, why do you feel like this is still something that like you need to talk about? Like, that's not my reality. Like, I'm a mother of 2 kids. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I have a bachelor's, I have a master's degree, right? Like, I'm in the process of becoming a therapist. Like, I'm so much bigger than that. And it's like,
absolutely,
that's just a hint in my story. It's not who I am. And it's never genuinely defined me, because I was able to get out of the industry while I was still actively shooting a large amount of scenes. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you made it out of it, right? So you're doing
Yeah.
bigger and better things now. That's all that's really, really important. So, and listen, nobody can really look down on it. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. It's part of what made you who you are today. So I do want to ask, as far as dealing with men in relationships, right?
Mhm.
From the very beginning, like I remember you saying earlier, even like some of your very first memories were, abused, and then your ex-husband abused. You ran into a lot of men who were just
Predator.
predators, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that may have really, I know you were saying you were a bit jaded, but what does that do to you? Like as far as your relationships, as far as trust issues, as far as bonding with men, like, because some of these experiences seem to be extremely filled with trauma. So how do you recover from that and be able to put all of that aside and not think about that or think about the potential that when you're doing this? It's kind of loaded, but yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing that I really had to do was first feel safe within my own body, and understand what that feels and looks like. And once I was able to begin to feel safe, like in my own body, then I was able to slowly start like implementing that in my other relationships. But one thing that I genuinely had to ask myself was like, what am I seeking out? Because I was seeking out something, like there was some type of stimulation or need that I didn't get met, like as a child or through these relationships. And once I was able to like really unpack like what I was seeking, I think it got easier for me to like start to actually give myself for someone. I think my trust issues like sometimes are always there, but I think it's more about the process, right? Like I'm able to identify when I'm getting triggered, and not take it so personally, versus before, like I would get triggered or I would not trust you and I would go ape shit. Not ape shit, but like for me, like I have an undergrad in like psychology, right? Like, and most of my stuff has been about like clinical like work. So I see people in a way that people don't want to be seen. So if I felt like you were being I can't right now, Jade. It's not working. I'll do it in a second. If I felt like you were not being trustworthy, like I was going to call you out. Like I had this previous experience with a guy or whatever. And he was very, like, he would lie. And I would basically tell him the reason why he sucks, like in a very clinical way. But for me, I always try to figure out where is this feeling coming from? Like, how can I identify something else in my life that's tied to it? And typically it's related to a traumatic event already. My current boyfriend, right? He's all about like protecting and providing, right? Like he genuinely believes that like the man should work and the woman should stay at home. And we've had conversations about this of like what that looks like in our relationship. And I think that's important. Like, assuming that like, getting married, we've already had those conversations of what that looks like and what the expectations are. But because I have done my own work, that isn't intimidating to me, right? If I didn't actually process my experience with my ex-husband, I would have rejected him, because for me, I would have been like, absolutely not. What do I look like being a stay-at-home mom again? Like, I had those experiences before. But yeah, I think it's, again, like, yeah, tying the current experience to a trauma, and that allows you to like decide whether you're seeing things clearly or if you're seeing things through a specific lens.
Wow. So would you say that you yourself, you see things through a specific lens? Do you feel like you knowing what you know makes you look at things a lot differently than, I know you had your experiences, but now you did the studies behind it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you a good lie detector?
I think I've always been very empathetic. Like, I mean, they always say like trauma victims or whatever, they're hypersensitive to things. They've like figured out how to train their brains or whatever to find loopholes in stories. And
Okay.
I have always been this way. So yeah, I can typically tell when someone's lying, even through text messages or on the phone, right? Like there's just something that happens that is very, I wish I could explain it.
Do you feel like it's more so your intuition, or is it something that like is more like clinical, where you can just say, you know what? Yeah, nope, he did this, she did that. Nope, that's cat. Like, is it something that you can sit there and break down like different elements that you notice, or is it just a feel you get?
No, I tend to like, I'm not a huge person about like intuition versus like gut, right? Especially like in speaking in terms of like, you know, trauma. So I'm never gonna like touch that subject because they come from two different places. But I think for me, it's more about the language and the body language that follows it.
Okay.
Say I'm
so you pay attention to body language.
Yes,
I want to hear some examples of this because you do psychology. I want to hear some of these things. Like, you gotta let me know.
Yeah,
some like telltale signs.
So I always look for like these odd pauses in conversations or whatever.
Okay.
Like if I ask you a question and you start answering it, but then you start to pause, you're trying to like recall something, right? But I'm the type of person, right? Like I'm going to ask you about it. Like I'm going to keep asking you about it because your shit doesn't make sense. Like it's not adding up. And so I think like that's just my downfall. I'm going to call you out.
So you're gonna press them pretty much. Like
I'm just thinking, like I'm gonna keep asking you like questions because it doesn't make sense at this point. And yeah, and I mean, yeah, I think people eventually, you know, fall into their own like little.
They fold, or you ask a question a different way. Or not to
mention, the internet is wide of information. Like I had this guy that like when I lived in Virginia, I dated this guy from New York and find out like he has a wife and he tried so hard to lie to me. I'm like, bro, I literally Googled your name and I found her. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah. So it's just like, don't lie. Like the internet is there. People aren't stupid anymore. Like,
yeah, you have information at your fingertips now. So it's different. Females do a nice little investigation on you. Once they get a little bit interested, they find everything. And Facebook is like the ultimate snitch. For one, Instagram it doesn't matter. Like they go Google you. Oh man, it's bad now. So you have to be you have to be very careful if that's how you move. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna get caught nowadays. You're better off playing it safe, behaving.
Right, exactly. Just don't like. I always say this thing, right? Like if you feel like you have to cheat on somebody, like you can do you and be single. But I think the thing is like people are actually seeking out the attention. Like they love the thrill of getting attention from multiple people. But it's like, again, like why be committed to somebody? You can sleep with multiple people at the same time and not actually be committed to somebody else. So I think genuinely it's about control.
Some people want the benefit of a relationship because there are certain benefits you have. And some people are just selfish, where they want their own. They want someone to deal with them solely. They want their undivided attention and everything that comes with that, and still want to, you know, do what it is they do. This is just explaining. This is not justifying by any means. Don't get it twisted. This is I
You
want
know,
you to
they
think
have
this is
stuff for that where people typically agree to it. There's a huge community about it. I'm just saying, like,
nah, it's not that wide. It's not that many people. The percentage is really low of people who would do it. Not to say it doesn't exist. It does, but it's
yeah,
it's probably harder to find that type of thing.
that's fair.
So with your do you have one-on-ones right now with people? Have you done any consults yet? Like as far as how you're helping people now?
No, I haven't. And I'm probably not gonna necessarily get into that yet. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm just trying to like build up momentum, right? Like I'm still trying to the webinar, like I said, I had been working on it for 6 months. Like that was kind of like something that like I wanted to like initiate right now. And it's like getting into YouTube that I can like essentially broadcast them on different playlists too. Like essentially I'm trying to drive traffic first, then continue to implement new things. So I'm trying to build slowly, like
I'm going to
to
tell you something.
one thing at a time. Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you something. Don't wait. Um, you, I mean, as soon as you feel like, don't wait too, because a lot of people appreciate the growth. A
Yeah.
lot of people appreciate the growth.
Yeah.
And for real, I feel like you're already polished enough to like at least you know what you're talking about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As far as production wise and everything else, that's good, and that's going to get better with time. But people don't even care about that. I take so much time to do a lot of things production wise, and I look at other things that make it. I'm like, damn, they don't even care. They don't have any lights. Like, I'm sitting here with 3-point lighting and everything else. I'm doing the most right now. I'm not using my webcam from my laptop. I'm usually there's a mic over here, like a roadie mic over here, like what I'm saying. Like this, I take it seriously. I try to do, a lot to make it like a good production for the most part.
Yeah.
But and it's not the illest yet. It's going to get better once I start getting the funds right now. But still, a lot of people do not care.
Right.
If you have good content, good substance, if they can learn something from you, a lot of people do it. They just turn their phone vertically and go for it and make it.
Yeah.
And make it. But you already have a good amount. You already have yourself a professional camera, right? You have a lot of equipment already. You got lighting. You're lit well in there. So, I mean, listen, don't wait. You can go for it right now because you can make it. You already know what you're
Right.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You have the experiences that you've already. That's what makes you more relatable versus somebody sitting here in grandstand for a good hour on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've actually experienced a lot. You know what I mean? Like every form of abuse, which even when I wasn't familiar with the financial abuse, I need off that one. This is like you've experienced it all, and you did the work. You
Right.
studied. You went and got your master's in social work. You got, you're doing psychology now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But you wait. Don't wait. I mean, you
Yeah.
take your baby steps. You go ahead. Believe me,
Yeah.
you're gonna be fine. It's a lot of the things that you care about. You might be a perfectionist. A lot of times I am, and people have to pull my coat to say, "Man, just go ahead and do it." All that shit's out the window. Just put it out, see what happens. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna getting some feedback, and you might go so hard into trying to make it a certain way, and then you did everything, and nothing really works yet. Because the main thing that you have to have is the connection with people. And once you start putting your things out, people are going to tell you what they don't like and what they do like. You'll have some close friends who watch stuff or people who know what they're doing. And then you're going to have the audience. You're going to have the trolls. The trolls are not there to help you.
Oh, I know.
They sometimes help you. They'll make you feel real insecure about some shit real quick. And then after you get past that part, it's like, all right, I'm gonna get that right. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. From things in your background, you'd be like, oh shit, I should have never had that. Or, like, no, for real. They notice everything. They pay so much attention to detail, like, because they're trolls. That's what they're the best at. But they serve a purpose if you know how to use them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I just consider it constructive criticism, even though you're not meant to be constructive. I mean, shit, it's not gonna hurt me. So
I get better.
exactly, you're gonna get better. So that's the main thing. But I definitely want to see you more sooner than later out. I feel like you're right. If you're ready to go ahead and just put yourself out there, because you're gonna start helping people. The sooner you get out, the sooner you're gonna start helping people.
Like I said, that's definitely in my back pocket of things to do. So maybe sooner than later. I mean, right now I'm working on this other fun little journal, like essentially, it's like a journal with different journal prompts and stuff like that. So
okay.
Yeah. So hopefully once I get that rolling out, then we can start like having those coaching sessions.
Yeah, I'm gonna see how that's gonna go. You might be able to help some people one-on-one for real, because it's different when it's more personal. Like it's different. You're gonna be able to.
Yeah, I mean, I have had like people inquire and be like, "What can how does this actually help me?" Right? Like, and so I appreciate that, right? That people are like coming to
even if you charge for it,
stuff like
you know
that.
what I'm saying? Even if you charge.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it'll all come together. I'm excited. This has been such an experience. I've never been so passionate about anything. Like I was, watching the videos, and there are some times where I'm like, where did that come from? Like, I don't even know how I said that. Like, it's not like I wrote anything down. Like, I literally was like, okay, this is the topic. I pressed record and I just kept going. Like, whatever came out of my mouth is what came out of my mouth. But it was like,
Gotcha, pause. But what I'm going to say is that's exactly that type of spirit you got to have when you're going for it. Just like how you just did it. You just went for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be good.
I love that.
You're going to be good. I promise you. Like I said, it's going to be rough in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. But you already know you've been practicing. You just put it out. And even if you don't do a bunch of lives per se, just do something that you can just go in and edit until you're pretty pleased with it. But you'll be surprised. A lot of things that I just throw out there, like, man, fuck it. It goes out there and I'm like, why do you like this? Why are you paying more attention to this than this thing that I sat here and prepared for hours and hours? I put all this effort into this to try to make it perfect for you. And you're like, oh, but I like this right here.
They're like, but I like it real though. You're like, what?
Yeah. So
amazing.
I'm telling you, just throw some things out there. Even if you don't throw it out there right away, you let a couple of people who you trust to critique it first, and then you just put it out there.
Yeah.
You're gonna be good.
Definitely.
So I'm not gonna take up your whole night, but I do want you to leave us with you had a lot of good quotes on your Instagram. I do want you to give out all your information for where people can find you, social media, where people can book you. Come with the paper, hit that cash app, you know what I'm saying? All that. So let people know how they can contact you for professionally, of course.
Yeah. I mean, if you go to my Instagram, it's In Bed with Danny. That's IN. In Bed with Danny. And it's INBEDDANI. And there's like an email link or whatever there, like on my profile page. They can just hit that. The emails go directly to me. That's all I have. Like, I don't really do socials outside of Instagram. So.
No, Instagram's good enough. Yeah. And people will find you, trust me. Everybody has it.
Yeah, and all my links are there. Like, my link tree is there with my YouTube, my website, like my poetry book. So yeah.
And what's your YouTube channel right now?
I believe it's Stacie Danielle. So yeah, STACIE Danielle DANIELLE. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You'll be able to find me there.
Bet. So I do want to just leave us with, I normally, but I want you to just leave us with some words of inspiration, because I saw a lot of goals. I don't care if it's a quote you already got, but just, spit some bars real quick. I know you got something.
Oh my God, I'm on the spot.
Yeah, I'll put you on the spot.
You don't really know what you don't know. And you have to keep going until you find out what you don't know.
Y'all gonna have to run that one back. I know it because it might not hit you the first time. You got to run that back. No, but we so appreciate you for coming out tonight and giving us your time.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks
for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Anytime, for real. And I'm definitely gonna want to do some type of update, even if it's short or whatever. Like I definitely want to see because I'm pretty sure you're gonna grow very fast as soon as you throw it out there, right? For everybody to see, gonna be good. So until next time, my friends, stay hungry, never thirsty.